Hi, welcome back to Alkora, the gatherhall between worlds. Pour your tea, steady your breath, and settle into the moment. Here, we don't rush to arrive, we remember. Every word is an echo, every truth a bridge. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what this post is, and it's not about fixing symptoms or pushing through fatigue. It's about learning the language your body uses during recalibration. Specifically, why nausea, tingling, neutrality, or exhaustion can appear after regulation, how to tell whether you're physically tired or energetically misaligned, and why resting sometimes makes things worse, what to do when neither rest nor action feels right, and how to reorganize or recognize reorganization versus collapse. This isn't optimization, it's timing literacy. Why you get nauseous energetically. When I first started exploring vagus nerve stimulation and central nervous system meditations, I noticed that I would experience a drop followed by nausea. During one of these meditations, I imagined breathing through my abdomen, often called the solar plexus region. This is the region that corresponds physically to the enteric nervous system and the diaphragm, and has major branches of the vagus nerve. I experienced digestive pain at times, and a few months ago, while experiencing this pain, I started doing some research into this area and learned that the softer emotions that we experience are thought to originate from here, and I thought that that was interesting. When I consciously tried to shift from threat regulation, my body began to release the tension I was holding in my diaphragm. This changed my breathing depth and rerouted blood flow back into my gut. I felt great immediately following these meditations that targeted this region. I even had a fun sensation where every breath through my stomach felt like a coin entering a bubblegum machine. After that unique and humorous sensation left, I noticed a drop and a queasy feeling. I thought something was wrong. I assumed I was only noticing it now because the stress hormones that had kept my body on alert were finally coming down. I went to Google, and one of the things that came up was that queasiness is a well-documented side effect after recalibrating the body following prolonged fight or flight. I was confused why something so well-documented wasn't something I already learned at a young age. From a physiological standpoint, it made sense as stress hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol come down, digestion resumes, and muscles that were braced begin to soften. And that shift can feel like nausea. If you try these exercises, it's not guaranteed that you'll experience the same sensations, and it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong if you don't experience what I did. Another sensation I experienced was tingling in my face, forearms, and hands. This is also a clear sign of downregulation. As your system calms, blood flow increases to the extremities, small capillaries reopen, and tension releases. How to tell the difference between physical and energetic fatigue is what I wanted to talk about next. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but there were days I felt exhausted even though my sleep tracker with my bed showed a high sleep score. Other times I felt functional yet hollow. These are not the same type of fatigue, and I wanted to talk about that. Physical fatigue can feel like my body is heavy, everything feels slower, sleep helps, even if not perfectly. I don't want stimulation, I want stillness. Muscles ache, eyes burn, head feels thick. I can imagine doing meaningful things, I just don't have the stamina. Rest restores capacity if it is physical fatigue. Energetic fatigue tends to sound like, what's the point, or why does it matter? I have energy but nowhere to put it. I'm bored, irritated, or numb, not sleepy. Doing the wrong thing drains me instantly. I feel regulated but deadened. I scroll, drink tea, lie down, and feel worse. Resting here increases stagnation. The common mistake people can make, including myself, is if I mistake energetic fatigue for physical fatigue, I'll lie down for a nap. That will lead to too much rest, disengagement, numbness, and shrinking my field of action, which is not what I want, because that increases entropy, leaking vitality, and quietly building resentment. If I mistake physical fatigue for energetic fatigue, I'll try to push meaning making into an exhausted body, moralize tiredness, and override recovery. And that leads to burnout, injury, or illness. The mistake isn't being tired, the mistake is applying the wrong medicine. So that's why it's important to define where the fatigue comes from so you can choose the right medicine. Physical fatigue support is reducing your load, increasing sleep and nourishment, gentle embodiment, walking, stretching, warm water, lower cognitive demand, no purpose hunting. And the mantra during this phase can be rest restores me. Energetic fatigue support is this phase isn't about doing more, it's about doing more that's aligned. Truthful motion, making something small but honest. Speak something you've been holding. Choose one vector that feels alive, not profitable, not impressive. Stop pretending. Neutrality is peace. So your mantra is alignment restores me. When it's neither physical or energetic, it could be a containment phase. The messiness comes when we expand beyond simple categories. You can experience multiple states of fatigue at once. Fatigue that isn't fatigue at all. Common imposters are protective withdrawal. That's when your system pulls back because something feels unsafe or incoherent. Liminal transition pause. This is where old structures have dissolved but new ones haven't formed yet. In these reorganizational pauses, both rest and action feel wrong. The corrective move isn't resolution, it's containment. Containment is often underestimated because it's quiet, and I struggle with this phase. What containment looks like. So let's talk about that. It's suspend meaning making, which it's not me. So the mantra is, I don't need to understand this yet. Reduce self-narration. No stories about being behind, awakening, failing, or destiny. And the mantra is just experience without interpretation. Allow ambiguity. Let multiple truths coexist. Change and stability. Capable and tired. Loving parts of your life and wanting something else. Mantra being, I don't need to collapse this into a decision yet. Keep routines boring and predictable, not rigid. Predictable. Same wake windows, same food rotation, same walking route, same wind down. Novelty drains reorganizing systems. Containment prefers low-entropy repetition. Avoid irreversible decisions during this phase. Containment pauses, quitting, launching, declaring, committing publicly, blowing things up for truth. Not because you're afraid, because timing matters. Limit energetic exposure. Less explaining yourself. Fewer deep conversations. Less content consumption. Tighter boundaries around others' emotions. And small closed-loop actions. Finish what you start same day. No future payoff. Cook a simple meal. Organize one drawer. Walk the same mile. Write privately, care for plants or animals. One anchor action that you do, and that's something that you do daily that doesn't ask who you are or where you're going. For me, anchors have been walking, writing, stretching, writing, but not publishing, of course. Gentle body care, quiet creativity without output pressure, and what containment would feel like when it's working is emotional neutrality, slight boredom, muted motivation, less urgency to explain, fewer spirals, waiting without anxiety. And then containment will end on its own, not by force. After this phase is over, you'll notice spontaneous clarity, energy organizing around one direction, desire to move without panic, action feeling obvious, not charged. When Containment ends, alignment pulls you forward. You don't have to push. So the questionnaire that I use, because there can be so much confusion around and overlap around what kind of fatigue is happening, I like to assess which one it is before I apply the wrong medicine. So I have the system and I have it on here. You can use the tool too, but it kind of shows you, is it physical fatigue or energetic fatigue or something else? So my body felt heavy, 3. Sleep helped somewhat, 3. I felt physically slower than usual, 3. So physical is a 9 out of 9. Cognitive fatigue, my mind felt cluttered, 3. Decision making felt harder, 3. Thinking instead of, so that was 9. And emotional fatigue was 2, and I have less capacity for others. Emotions, 3. Small things trigger me, 2. So my subtitle there was 2. Energetic fatigue, misalignment. Rest does not restore me, 0. Doing the wrong thing drains me instantly, 3. I have energy, but nowhere honest to put it, 0. So with a total of 3. And existential fatigue, life feels flat or mechanical, 1. I question the point more than usual, 1. I feel like I'm observing life instead of inhabiting it. I scored myself a 1 with a 3 out of a 9. So protective withdrawal, I feel myself narrowing my world, 1. Actions feel threatening or overwhelming. I scored a 1. Pulling back reduces anxiety, 0, for a total of 2 out of 9. And liminal reorganizational pause, neither rest nor action feels right, 3. I sense something reorganizing beneath the surface, 3. And forcing clarity feels premature, 3. So I got a 9 out of 9 there. So the highest score is the dominant layer, and that's where support, not effort, should go. So I had multiple high scores of physical, cognitive, and emotional, and a liminal score of greater than 6. So my liminal score is the spine of the result, and this doesn't replace medical care. It doesn't diagnose or treat. It helps me narrow what I'm feeling. In this case, my body was depleted. My processing capacity was maxed, and it was not existential collapse. It's infrastructure overload. When physical and cognitive are maxed, insight won't land, motivation won't organize, alignment won't stick, meaning seeking feels like exhaustion. Trying to figure it out here is like debugging software while the server is overheating. And emotional at 7 tells me I still have emotional signal. I'm not disassociated. I'm not shut down. My emotion is responding to overload, not causing it. So timing intelligence for me, a max liminal score alongside a max physical and cognitive means my system was reorganizing while running on empty. Fun. In this phase, rest doesn't resolve tiredness. Actions feel impossible. Clarity feels premature. Containment is necessary, even if unsatisfying. This isn't indecision, it's timing intelligence. The rules here is I can't fix anything until capacity returns. Containment must include restoration, not just holding. How I sequence the support in this scenario: for the next 7 to 10 days, my only goals are under physical rest, stay in bed long enough to restore even if sleep is broken, eat predictably, hydrate, gentle movement only, no optimizing, no protocols. Cognitive, radically reduce inputs, no big planning, no future mapping, write things out of my head, one thing at a time. This alone reduces cognitive load by 30 or 40%, I'm guessing. I don't know. Emotional, fewer emotionally charged conversations, no processing for insight, witnessing only, permission to feel neutral. This is about protecting capacity, not healing feelings right now. Because liminal is maxed, no irreversible decisions, no identity declarations, no this means I should do X, Y, or Z. I need predictable days, closed loop tasks. That means not starting the basement reorganization project this right now. This is maintenance mode during rewrite, not stagnation. Old memories can surface during this phase. It hasn't for me yet this time, but it did last time I was in this phase. People can confuse 3 phenomenon: integration, recalibration, This is where your nervous system is stable enough to access old material. Memory reconnects to current safety and identity, and it's triggered by regulation, slowing reduced distraction. And it feels like curiosity or neutrality, informational, not consuming, and it comes and goes without action. A key marker is it passes. Dysregulation-driven memories or driven recall is threat circuitry is active. Memory surfaces warnings. It feels like sudden and intrusive body activation and urgency, and the key marker is that grounding reduces intensity. A fear trauma loop is the same story, same charge, compulsion to analyze or fix, and the key marker is escalation and narrowing. If you can remember the past without collapse or engagement, the pain has been metabolized. Integration is quiet. That's the milestone. So sometimes in this phase, I all of a sudden just want comfort TV. And during recalibration, comfort TV isn't regression, it's resource conservation. What's happening during this phase is the central nervous system is regulated enough to rest. Cognitive load is still limited. Novelty metabolically is expensive. Familiar stories are required for minimal processing. And comfort TV during dysregulation is avoidance. Comfort TV during recalibration is stabilization. Motivation can die before it returns because motivation dips because the old fuel source is gone and the new one isn't online yet. And this could be chemical reasons. So amphetamines create artificial urgency, and when these are removed, the drive normalizes slowly. Pressure can't replace chemistry. There could be identity reasons. So if your former self was built around responsiveness, competence under pressure, producing and managing, then when that loosens, motivation collapses temporarily. The why is offline, not the how. Motivation goes quiet before it reorganizes. The silence isn't emptiness, it's reassignment. So you can outgrow your former self, and once you see the difference between reacting and acting from center, you become accountable for your life. I didn't reject my former self, it kept me alive, but it no longer fit who I was. And what I noticed was that old habits didn't energize me, old rewards didn't land, old identities felt ill-fitting, neutrality replaced urgency, and during the holidays, I stopped performing. I did what I wanted, and if I didn't want to do it, I did the bare minimum. I didn't decorate perfectly. I spent time watching movies and playing games with my kids. I regret nothing. The wreath didn't matter, the presents did. I felt strange not being driven by the belief that perfection equals worth, but it felt true. And that was enough. For you, if your body feels heavy, your mind feels slow, and clarity feels premature, you may not need answers. You may need quiet fuel. Nothing is wrong with you. Closing sign off. If this resonated, you don't need to act and you don't need to decide. Let the system finish its sentence. Feel free to return when you're ready to explore, like, and subscribe. Thanks for listening. I'm Jody, and this is Alkora. The translated frequency of this post was 312 hertz.